20% of businesses fail within the first 1 year. 50% by 5 years, and depending on where you are, it can be anything between 70 and 95% within the first 10 years. Now, you certainly don't want to be one of those statistics. If you want to start a business, you want to start one of those which are almost fail-proof. And trust me, they do exist. So you might want to consider one of these that we're going to talk about. Before we actually talk about the businesses, we want to clarify what the definition of a business failing actually means. A business failing means the business closing due to failure to make profit. So businesses can close for very many reasons. A business might close because someone is just tired. They have decided to retire. They have been making profit, but they have told themselves, no, I'm retiring. Or maybe because they are moving to another state, another country, and decide to close the business. That's not considered as a business failure. A business failure is one where the business closes because there's no profit. So the very first one is food business. I mean food business, not restaurant business. Restaurant business is actually quite pathetic. About 60% of all restaurants will fail within their first 1 year. But food business, on the other side, is almost fail-proof. So by food business, I mean literally food production, everything involved in food production. That is mainly the agriculture side and the production side of food. Now, when it comes to the agriculture side, there are mainly two. That is usually animal production and crop production. Any of them will usually not fail, even after 10 years. And why is that? It's because food is a necessity. It doesn't matter what's happening in society. It doesn't matter what's happening to the economy. Food is a necessity. Unlike restaurant businesses where if, for example, a COVID happens or maybe there's a recession and the economy has been hit badly, people will not go to restaurants because they are choosing to spend a little bit less, and so they don't want to go to restaurants. They will still need to eat. You won't tell yourself, well, we are in a recession, I'm not going to eat. They will still need to eat. So food production, agricultural businesses are actually very fail-proof. In some places, it's up to 90%. In some countries, due to policies and things like that, it can be as low as 60, 70%. But that still means you have more than half of the likelihood of you surviving. So it's actually a very good business. Now, food production or agricultural businesses will come with their own issues, yeah? It's not like they don't have any issues. Actually, they have a lot of issues, yeah? Because number one, the biggest problem is that you have to pay quite a lot to start the business. They're quite capital intensive at the beginning because you have to pay for land for a lot of them. Then you need to get equipment depending on what type of business you're doing. You're going to need inputs, whether it's seeds, pesticides, and a lot of things. They are very labor intensive, so you're going to need a lot of workers or a lot of equipment and machinery. A lot of times they actually do require your physical presence for them to run and be successful, which is unlike a lot of other businesses, maybe in the IT industry or things like that. But if it's simply about the business succeeding and being present, food business, agricultural business are one that you should think about and actually pick. The second one is real estate. Now, real estate is one of those businesses that has been existent from time immemorial. From so long ago, you know, if you read any stories, even in the oldest manuscripts, kings used to rent out their land to ministers. You know, if you read, for example, in the Roman Empire, the emperor would give out his land maybe to, you know, someone in a particular area and tell them to develop it, and they would get some money back, yeah? So real estate has been existed and it still existed. And it's not a mistake that it's actually still existed. It's because it's actually one of those things that rarely fail. Why? Because number one, the value of land and property almost never depreciates. It can for a very short time, but over time, over 1, 2, 3 years, the value of these things never really depreciates. It doesn't matter how old it gets. It doesn't matter. And if you build a house and, you know, 10 years later, it's unlikely that 10 years later, that house, the value will have depreciated. Well, unless you don't do any maintenance on it and things like that. The other advantage with it is that it's quite easy to learn, honestly. It's not complicated. The way real estate has been run many years ago is still the same way it's run right now. There might be a few new things, you know, these days maybe they do it using computers and things like that. But there's nothing complicated about it, yeah? The principles are still the same. The value will always depreciate. Of course, because the population of the world keeps increasing, people keep getting more money, so they need places to run businesses. You know, the thing with real estate is that there's two ways of doing it. You can either go commercial or you can go residential. Commercial is usually more expensive because a lot of these properties, people can actually use them to make a lot of money. But also, you won't say that a residential place will depreciate because people will consistently need where to sleep and where to stay. And that's not only it. In addition to simply buying and selling these properties, you can actually do renting. Now, in some places, the rent might actually not be a lot and the profit margins might be little, but that still means that the business is not failing. Even if the profit margins are little, well, there's still some business. And so there's still profit. Unlike businesses which might have huge profit margins because they have very high risk, but then just like that, the business has ended. So real estate generally has made the most millionaires in the world than any other business since business started. No other has actually come close. So it certainly means that if you want to venture into business, it's something that you should consider. 3 is pharmacy business. Now, step out of your house, if you're in an urban setting, and just move a few meters, 10, 15, maybe 200 meters, and look at the number of pharmacies you're going to see there. Very many. Now, it's not a mistake that all those pharmacies are present. It's because we don't want to die. I don't want to die. You don't want to die. People don't want to die. Besides the fact that we don't want to die, a lot of us actually do everything that pushes us to the grave. You'll find people eating healthy food, you'll find people smoking, you'll find people doing all the crazy things. And what does that mean? The pharmacies get to work, because if you're eating unhealthy food, if you're not working out, you're not maintaining your weight, you're consistently getting ill, maybe because you're smoking, in the end you're going to need medication if you don't want to die. And if you have to get this medication, you have to go to a pharmacy. So these pharmaceutical companies have actually made drugs for almost everything. Something to make you feel better. If you have a headache, something to make you feel better. If you're stressed, something to take away your stress, without even looking for the fundamental cause of the stress. They can take away your stress temporarily. And what that means is that people will consistently seek for medications. They'll consistently seek for better health. They'll consistently seek to feel better. It doesn't matter whether I'm working out or not. If I start getting fat and I don't want to work out, I'll go to a pharmacy and buy a pill and I'll get better. I'll start losing my weight. So they take advantage of that to keep getting money. So you who is starting a business can also take advantage of that. There are some of those businesses that very rarely close because the need is consistently there. And the products are quite expensive, honestly. 4 is transportation business. Now think about it. You're probably overweight and you need a pill. A lot of times these days, people will just go to their phone and place an order from a pharmacy and it will need to be delivered. Delivering it requires some means of transport. Or maybe you're very busy at the office and you're working and you can't step out to go get lunch. You'll send for food. It will have to be delivered. Or maybe you want to go for a vacation to the Philippines. You'll have to take a flight. It will have to be delivered. Or maybe you're opening a huge business and you need to send for some equipment from China. It's going to be put on a ship. It will have to be delivered. That's transportation. So transportation is one of those things that actually is existent. It is very rarely affected by recessions and calamities, just like real estate, because even in things like this, for example, even during COVID-19, people still had to get things. When people were locked up and they were still at home, they still had to get food, they still had to, buy all kinds of things. And that means those things need to be delivered. So getting involved in transport businesses is actually one of those things that will ensure that you're consistently there. Now, transport business is actually not very profitable. The margins are not very high, but the failure rate is very, very low because the need for transport is consistently existent. So you can be involved in different types of transport, whether it's short deliveries like food, like medicines, or whether it's long haul, movements, whether it's aeroplane, whether it's cargo or passenger, all kinds of transport. If you do your business well, most likely you will be present 10, 20, 50 years from now. 5 is clothing business. Now, this can be quite variable. Clothing business involves everything from making, from selling, and washing clothes. Now, interestingly, selling is actually the one with the highest failure rates because the competition is too much and people are everywhere. The disadvantage with it is that it can be very highly affected by market trends and whether there is a recession or not. If there's a recession and people don't have money, people are less likely to go buy clothes. They will focus on essentials like food and things like that. But then there is things that people will always need. Things like cleaning clothes, that will always be existent. So if you have a laundry mat, some dry cleaning thing, those are kinds of businesses that almost never fail. Almost everywhere that I saw a laundry business 10 years back, it's actually still present up to now because the failure rates are so low. People consistently have to get their things washed Now, this is not a business which is, again, very good to start in a rural setting. This is a business which actually makes a lot of sense in urban settings, because in urban settings, people don't have time. They don't have time to start cleaning their laundry and doing everything. They are spending all the time at the office. They're spending their time making money, and they would rather pay for someone to actually do their cleaning. So the other advantage with it is that it might require a little bit of capital, but it's not so labor intensive. You only need maybe 2-3 people to run a very huge area, and again, it doesn't require too much capital to start off compared to a lot of other businesses. So it's one that I would actually advise you to consider. And number 6 is energy business. Now, energy business is quite interesting because the thing is that energy is in very limited supply. Yeah, very, very limited supply. We need energy for almost everything: to warm up our houses, to iron our clothes, to cook our food, for refrigerators. Even the camera I'm using right now requires some form of energy for it to run. But it's in very limited supply. Most of it is supplied through fossil fuels, but with time that is decreasing. The competition is very high. Fossil fuels can also get quite expensive. We need other sources, usually of renewable energy. And so all the companies that are coming up, especially companies that produce solar forms of renewable energy, and in some places wind forms of renewable energy, these businesses will actually make a lot of money and will be existent for a very long time. So consider them. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and right here you can check out another video of businesses that almost always fail. Catch you very soon with another video. Bye.